just like to say thank y'all, first of all, for giving us the opportunity. And I've traveled 3 hours to be here tonight. So I'm very, very passionate about what I do. I'm an educator. I live, sleep, eat, breathe this stuff. My lucky little 3-year-old and my husband get to hear it all the time. So I'm very passionate about what I do, and I'm here today for my son's future, and I'm here today for the kids. I would just like to start off a little bit introducing myself. I was in the public school system for 7 years in an outstanding system. I mean, the teachers couldn't get any better, the students couldn't get any better. I loved my job for about a year or two, and I saw thousands of changes come down the pipeline. And I began to get more miserable and more miserable and more miserable as I could not do what was best for kids. And that's what I want to focus on today, is why Common Core is not for good for kids. I've heard people say, in previous remarks that teachers are happy about the Common Core, but then again, they wouldn't recommend their job to somebody as a profession. Neither would I. I have recently transferred from a public school, cut my salary in half, made some very big sacrifices for my family, because the last straw for me was Common Core. And the biggest thing for me, this is what I have an issue with. If it's the only game in town, it's the only game in town. And I know people are saying that the standards do not dictate the curriculum. If you know anything about teaching, your standards dictate the curriculum. And let me tell you the biggest reason it dictates the curriculum. Because when my evaluation depends on it, and my job security for my family, let me ask you this. I want you to think about your personal children and grandchildren. If little Sally's in my class and she doesn't pass the state assessment, are you going to pat me on the back and say to me, well, that's okay, we know you're a good educator? No, you're going to wonder what happened wrong in that year, little Sally's in my classroom, what I didn't do. What's going to be tested are the standards. And when the standards are tested, that's what you spend your time on. So it's not a framework, it is a curriculum, and when it's tested, and when it's high stakes testing, and you're getting evaluated on it, you are going to test that 100% of the time. Have you looked at the 3rd grade reading standards? I know everybody's saying that the Common Core has been condensed. Yeah, it visually looks like it's been condensed, but if you take the reading standards and break apart how many elements there are in the 3rd grade reading standards, did you know there is 93 elements in the 3rd grade reading standards? So you tell me, after teaching to make sure they pass the test, how I'm going to have time to change that curriculum. Yeah, we can get our own book list and all that's been said, but the curriculum is still the same. And the biggest beef I have about the curriculum is the age appropriateness of it. It's been called, we've got the race at the top and all this. It's the race to the middle is what it should be named. It's mediocre teaching. We have a one-size-fits-all approach, and as someone said earlier, the gifted students are going to be bored to death. I totally agree with that because I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. The other student I have seen, many students like this, are, I'm thinking of one little boy in particular that I taught last year that was very low achieving at the beginning of the year and had made so much progress by January. No, he wasn't a high kid. I mean, he had probably pulled himself up to about average. But y'all, he was so motivated and encouraged. And what started happening in January, you come back and you get ready for that test, you get ready for that test, you get ready for that test. You push the standards that you know are going to be on there, and he hasn't mastered. When a 7-year-old has this problem on a mock CRCT, something that goes, if 27 students get on the bus at the first bus stop, 10 get off on the next one, then 3 more join, 8 more get ice cream. I mean, it was that ridiculous. You tell me how your 7-year-old grandchild or child can do that. Here's another example. If you have a 7-year-old, tell me if you've ever seen a 7-year-old that can tell you the difference between adjectives and adverbs. That's one of our standards. Tell me a 7-year-old that can reason abstractly. If you know anything about education, 7-year-olds don't reason abstractly. I'm not saying that I'm not for pushing my students, because I can promise you I am passionate about it, and I push my students tremendously, and I have very high expectations for them. But I'm fine with asking a second. I do that in my reading groups right now. I currently teach 2nd and 4th grade. And when I teach 2nd and 4th grade reading, you better believe I push them. And I do introduce critical thinking. But I'm not giving that child pressure. Get it. And I can tell you, those students, I'm telling you firsthand from 7 years, the students that do well on the test, once they pass that test and they get their little treat bag and a pat on the back from the principal, the majority of them can't remember what an adjective and an adverb is. And it's not because I didn't teach it the right way, because I sleep, eat, and breathe it. I know how to teach an adjective and adverb. It's because 7-year-olds are not designed to critically think and master what an adjective and adverb is. So you've got this one mediocre standard, your high kids are bored, your low kids are doing what I had 3 or 4 of mine do last year, is leave the room and throw up, or, and this is after encouraging, you can do it and breaking it down during a test. There will be no room to teach anything else at all. And I know my time's not up, so let me see what else I got. Another thing that has been said is that, even with the math and the reading, the pacing guide is determined when we have to teach it. And all of this has been based on what? Listen, I was a public educator for 7 years. I got sick of changes. Sick of them, especially when I had no say-so in them. But we're talking about staying the course. I understand that, because there were so many years, I can't tell you the hours I spent. I didn't work 7:30 to 3. I worked about 7:30 to 7 making stuff. And thinking about it when I woke up, and thinking about it when I went to bed, and praying, God, please don't let me change anything again. But when it comes down to the kids, if you're an educator for the right reason, why are you not going to think of the kids first? Because while we're staying the course and not wanting to change anything, our kids are suffering from standards that are not age appropriate. And that's what I'm appealing to you for. I'm somebody that's sacrificed my salary. I sacrificed a lot of things this year, but I will say, and I just told somebody this on the way over here, this is the first year that I have honestly been able to lay my head down at night and say I have loved my students and that I have genuinely cared for them. They are achieving very well, and I have not introduced something a couple months later or a semester later than I did in public school, but it's like with my 4th graders right now. I'm not beating them over the head to get possessive nouns and adjectives and adverbs and critically think, because they're developmentally ready for that. We're wasting time cramming. Exposure's fine. But when we get a one-size national fits-all standard, we have no ability to change it. That will be what we test on, so that will be what we have 100% of the time. If we can't draw the line here, what else are we going to accept? And I've heard a lot about teachers today, but I haven't heard hardly anything about kids. And that's what it's about.